Hey, here we are, episode 6, R&D Sessions, Musashi R&D Sessions. Very special episode, probably our favourite episode to date. Not that we've done that many, but
super special guest today.
I know, one of Australia's best ever soccer players, current Socceroos goalkeeper, currently playing for Brighton in the English Premier League, renowned as being one of the hardest workers in the game, and a bit of a soccer icon, or football icon, Maty Ryan. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. It's nice to see you getting down with the lingo as well, football and all that.
I know. So what is it? Is it soccer or football? And I'll probably get grilled by all the football fans for calling it soccer, but here in Australia it's soccer.
The governing body here now is called Football Federation Australia. So,
all right.
But yeah, obviously the public out there, with their football coach they've grown up with, the rugby league and all that, like to stick to it, calling it soccer. But,
well, you're part of the Socceroos team, so it's pretty hard when the Socceroos team are calling it soccer as well.
Yeah,
can we call it footy? Or is that too far?
I think we'll call it football. We'll keep it authentic and genuine. You are over here in Australia because of the suspension of the English Premier League. How did that come about? Like, where were you when you found out that the season was going to be sort of suspended? Were you at home or training, or how did they break it to you?
Yeah, just at home. It's pretty well documented that there were meetings going on once it hit. We were due to play Arsenal in a game. I forget what round it was, but just one of the games throughout the league. And news broke the day before the game or 2 days before that the coach from Arsenal had actually picked up the virus. And so they had to postpone that match, and then it's just been ongoing from there. Initially, they announced a suspension for only a couple of weeks, hoping that it was not going to be obviously a big pandemic and they could get on top of it. But obviously what's happened has happened, and it's just been sort of one sort of postponement at the minute to another. But yeah, just being at home, trying to be safe and keep active and stay sane.
What was your initial thoughts? Were you like, oh yes, a bit of a break finally, or
did
were you like
blow over pretty quickly? Or?
My initial thoughts was because sort of recognising how it had been, going throughout the world in China and in Spain and Italy, I was sort of pretty much aware that we're going to have some time off. So my initial thoughts were, oh man, I hope I don't get stuck over here with postponements when football, the only reason that I'm away from my friends and family, is stopped. So I was pretty much on the ball from the get-go, wanted to try to get back to Australia to be closer to obviously those who mean most to me. And that first postponement, they said we weren't allowed to travel back, and if I was able to travel back then, I could have missed out on doing the quarantine in the hotel. I could have been doing it from my home here in Australia, which a little bit frustrating, but that aside, I'm happy to have been back here now for a few weeks and enjoying being closer to those. And it's a lot better here, the circumstance, than back there in England. So
good to see the family, catch up with the family again. I want to ask you about time in quarantine though.
We saw you putting up some pretty cool workouts inside the hotel room.
Mate, lock me in a hotel room for 2 weeks. I'll go crazy. You seem to like breeze through it. What were you doing? Were you actually allowed to leave the room at all?
Nah, so it was basically Fort Knox there with the amount of security. Basically got off we landed there. The custom officers came on the plane, just quick brief saying, why you're here, what you've got to do. Got off the plane, got a mask, had to go get our temperature checked by some security there at the airport. Got through customs, all that. After that, I was fine. Got my bags, basically waited there till our bus had arrived. Everyone was waiting about half an hour. We got our bags. We're ushered out by naval officers, army officers, police, everything onto these buses.
You should be used to that, mate. Traveling around in limousines. And
Nah, man, never forget where I come from.
That's
Western
it,
Sydney.
yeah.
I'm always taking myself there and that. So
shout out to Western Sydney.
Western Sydney, stand up.
Nah, never forget there.
So, how was your mental health in there? Like, were there days that you were just, obviously you can only talk to family and friends so much on the phone and so much FaceTime. Like, did you have reading material? How were you occupying your days?
Some books, obviously TV series. I don't think I even watched a movie when I was in there, to be honest.
TV series. What'd you get into?
I was watching Elite. I don't know if you know it. It's on Netflix. It's based in Spain, about like a bunch of kids at school, and there's been like a death and all these type of things, and got to work out who it was, and it all plays out. So it's a bit, it keeps the mind ticking over what may happen and what not. It keeps you guessing. And it was also, you can choose to watch it in Spanish. So,
did you brush up on your Spanish?
Yeah, so obviously I played in Spain, so I always like to continue practicing. So it was nice to watch it in Spanish. And
well, Dhiren speaks Spanish. We're going to do the rest of the podcast in Spanish. So,
ne pasa.
So
it doesn't happen, so close enough.
So you weren't losing your shit in there too much?
No, but like I've read a book recently. You know, all the rage these days is obviously staying positive and having the right mental approach and how much more beneficial it can be. And I've really tried to focus on training my brain in order to think that way and live that way. And I think that was the trick, staying productive, proactive, improvisation, getting creative, hence some of the workouts and all that type of stuff. And
check out Maty's Instagram for some of the workouts that he was doing in there. It was crazy.
Yeah,
using your luggage for weights. And
I demonstrated obviously on the Musashi takeover. So it was nice to get engaged, and I'm all about trying to help everyone improve their quality of lives, and being active is one of them. So share a couple of workouts on there and get people involved, and it made time fly by, and I had a nice prize at the end of the day by being back here closer to everyone. So that's what helped me through it.
What was the name of the book?
The book was called The War Doctor.
The War Doctor. Oh yeah.
Sounds intense.
Anyone read it? No.
That sounds good. But we talk a bit about it's not just about your physical diet. Sometimes it's about your mental diet. What you take in, and that makes a big difference. Yeah, your mindset.
Definitely. Like you said, all the rage is that these days. I mean, it's easier said than done to be remaining positive. With challenges you're facing. But I've found through my own experiences that if you're able to do so, your life is much more fulfilling. You're probably going to be happier. It's going to be, more joyful, and hopefully that also, adds to being more successful as well. So I'm really making a conscious effort, and, like any aspect of being an athlete or anything, I really think it's something that you can train. We work on getting stronger, getting quicker, more technical work of positions and all that. And I think, training the brain in the way you want to make it think and the way it should be thinking to keep you in that frame of mind where you're just letting your instincts take over, and, you're training well, playing well, you're not overthinking scenarios, situations. That's in a athletic perspective, and then even in a general life perspective, you're going to be enjoying the company of others around you more so, rather than focusing and dwelling on perhaps this situation, meaning that, you lost your job, income, all those types of things. As hard as that is, it's you're wasting time doing that. You need to be being proactive and thinking, okay, what's ways I can maybe make income or find a solution for this or for that, and I'm sure that's going to best serve individuals better and help improve their quality of lives.
It's always something you see with elite level athletes. A lot of them have got this sort of mindset, and that's what sort of separates them from your hobbyists like Dhiren and I.
You guys are at the top
have
of
you
your
ever
game.
have you ever had like any exposure to a mental coach or anything throughout your career? Or because there's a lot of athletes getting mental coaches now, and like you said, either self-tuition or they've got an external person helping them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like anyone, I wasn't conscious of the help available in that area, and just being unaware of it. And it was funny, it was when I first went to Brighton for to join them in the Premier League. I'd sort of come off a stressful period where I wasn't playing so much. I had a few injuries, and my mind wasn't in the right place, and I sort of recognise that now. Just being a bit disappointed by not being able to play, and questioning myself on my ability as to why I wasn't playing, and all these types of things. And it was a former coach of mine when I was playing at the Mariners, Graham Arnold, who's obviously now the Socceroos boss as well. He watched the game, and he gave me a phone call on the way to training one morning, and it was funny. He basically nailed where I was at in my head, what I was thinking, and doubting myself, and all these types of things. And that's something that sets him apart as a manager. Something that he's had great success being a manager, both internationally and domestically, and wherever he's been. And for him to have followed my career and had known me obviously as a young player coming through the Mariners, and just by watching me, seeing through his own experiences in his own life, perhaps what I was doing that wasn't allowing me to be performing at my best. And he had, in all of that, he obviously had some tricks up his sleeve, and he had a a guy by the name of Mike Conway. In his title, it's really long, but it's something like a mental resilience and emotional coach or something like that. And I basically just had a phone call. Arnie basically said, call him up, have a chat with him. You know, he'll start getting you back in the right direction and all these types of things. And sure enough, I gave him a call, and I don't think it's a coincidence that when I spoke to him and the insight he gave me and a few techniques he gave me that I put into practice, things started to take a turn and my performances started to improve. And ever since that moment, really, I've been quite content with where my brain and my mental side has been at, whilst still learning along the way and even fine-tuning it to become even better. So me and myself, I've witnessed it firsthand, the benefits of it.
It's such an important part of any sport, the mental side of it.
And we were talking about this last week. You know, every sport has a different breakdown, I guess, between the three elements of, you know, your technical skill, your physical skill, and the psychological skill that you need. Last week we were talking about jiu-jitsu, which is, you know, heavily focused on the technical, and, you know, of course there's that physical and psychological element. Obviously, you know, in football, the balance is different. But even at different levels of football, I guess, you know, you're playing at the highest of the highest levels. So that psychological element is obviously such a big part. You know, as the stakes are higher, as the pressure to perform increases, so does the psychological demands.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, a lot of pressure. You know, fans, personnel within the club, everyone wanting you to perform and you know, do your best and be as successful as you can. And that's the challenge of it. And at such a level, I've found through my experiences, the margin of difference is so minimal, you know. Yeah. So you need to constantly be trying to find ways to get that extra little bit of advantage. And I think for myself, you know, that positive mental approach and belief in myself, even, you know, more so, which obviously is sort of what they recommend you doing, you know, to be believing in yourself so much that you're almost invincible. You know, it's hard to obviously get into it, you know, if you haven't, I guess, been briefed on it or in certain aspects. But, you know, the mainstay of it is obviously, keeping positive and training the brain to, you know, think the way you want it to allow you to take advantage of all your skills and techniques and physical condition and all that. So.
It helps having a good coach that can recognise when players might be doubting themselves or feeling a bit down or off because of injury. And like you said, your coach recognise where you're at, and I think that's the same like in the NRL and stuff. That's why like Wayne Bennett is so revered as such a good coach. He's a great player manager. Not only does he know the game, read the game, but he's able to spot when a player's off or do something to build their confidence. And it's so important, especially as a young player that might not know where to go or might not have a sort of a mentor or something like that.
No, definitely. Like even this time when I was back here on holiday this time last year, I went into an Origin camp. And,
I was going to ask you about it with the Blues. Yeah. How was that?
Blues were training. It was great. But
how did that come about?
So basically, I had a friend, an old school teacher of mine, Peter Langmack. You might know the last name. Yeah. So Paul Langmack was his uncle, obviously the famous footballer, and
played for the Bulldogs, didn't he?
The family and all that. And he was my school teacher at school, and just through there, his auntie Diane Langmack was working with Phil Gould at Penrith Panthers and all that, and a number of contacts. And I love my footy. I'm a big Parramatta Eels fan, and you know, to get into an environment like that.
Edit that bit out, please.
If you want, take a look at the table at the minute. I think we're top of the table. So
it's time, a long time.
I'll take it. I'll take it. But just touching on that positive mindset, you know, and the mind and everything. I went in there, I was chatting to obviously Freddie himself, and everything was designed about keeping the mind fresh and keeping it clear and all that, and the emphasis on how important that it's the most important aspect of all the guys out there, all the players, and they were just obviously getting their work done, but making sure the fun element was there. He had also opened the doors to the media each day, not you know, like just giving players to one certain media each day. He was giving it to access to everyone. So, you know, within that, the media having that access, they're not having chips on their shoulders saying that they can't get to this person, that person. They were just writing all positive stuff about all the players because they had that access to them, keeping everyone mentally fresh and all that. And that was the focus, basically, of the camps and the games when they were there together.
Were you there for a training session? Or
I was there for a training session, yeah.
So, like, obviously, a lot of players coming together from all different teams. How did the intensity and that camp feel, like, compared to, like, a Socceroos camp, for example?
Yeah, there was obviously a lot of similarities in the preparation. The guys around there, sports scientists, making sure everyone's getting the nutrients and all these types of stuff. Yeah, and then within that, obviously, you got your tactical work and your technique type of stuff. You sort of structure the sessions to tick off all the boxes in those aspects. Much the similar in that you meet in a hotel as a base, and you have your team meals together and all that. You get your training done and your gym programs and all that done together. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities with the structure of it all and how it all works. And obviously the main differences comes within the differences of the sports and that. But yeah, very much a lot of similarities.
Did they bring you in to do a speech, or were you just there to hang out for sort of morale? And like, did you give them a bit of a rev up, or what was the go?
When they introduced me, they just got sort of in a huddle out the middle of the field and were having a little chat, introducing myself, and Hayden Knowles, who's the trainer out there, was just giving me a little intro and telling them a little bit, but nothing too in depth.
Yep.
And it was just mainly, I thought I was being there just for like a fanboy, just to watch the session and all those types of things. But it was nice. He had a few nice words to say and all that. And I don't know if it helped anyone or not, but it was nice to be in and amongst it.
Do the Socceroos do that sort of thing as well? Do they bring in people to have a talk? And like, who is like the highest profile? Who's the person that's come in and you've gone, oh shit?
Trying to think. A lot of it is done on videos. When we're getting ready for a big tournament, they'll put a sort of a montage of messages from in the past. George Gregan, captains of the other, like the cricket teams and all these types of things, and it's like, oh well, I didn't even realise they sort of followed the sport a little bit and all these types of things. So I know it's a little bit of a reality check and all that, but no, it's nice. It was nice to see how the boys get on and seeing how similar it is and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess when the World Cup's on, everybody's following it.
It's huge.
There's nothing that comes close anymore.
Mate, even as a player, there's nothing that comes close to when a World Cup is on. The games, just the hype and everything being so amplified, like pre-match, post-match. Everyone's just talking about the upcoming games you're playing against, and if you play well in a game like that or get a great result, then everyone, people still obviously talk about like Tim Cahill's heroics when he's at the World Cup scoring these goals, and Australia's victories over certain teams and all that, and it's great, an athlete and doing those sorts of things. So
let's rewind the clock a bit. So you're a Western Sydney boy. You grew up Western Sydney. Was football your first sport that you played? That you had exposure to?
Yep. Going out from, I think, as soon as I could walk, had a ball in my hand and playing. Played on the field actually in the beginning, but just playing with my mates in the streets. But at that stage, I had a variety of sports. I wouldn't say I was totally dominated towards football, but I was playing an array of sports. Loved being a kid and being outdoors and running around and athletic and sporty.
Did you start off as a goalie or start off as a striker like every kid?
Yeah. Started up front and moved my way back. So, but
they introduced goalies at under 9s or something now.
I think nowadays it is, isn't it? Yeah, they play with the small goals and all that. But I think it's important at that age. You get a bit of variety in all the positions and all that, and it's important that kids are just out there having a good time, enjoying.
That's it. It's all about fun at that age, but I think they start to sort of figure out where they're best on the field. Anyway, you've got some kids that love being up the back defending goals and goalies, and some that love getting up there at the front and hogging the ball and scoring.
Yeah. But what would you be, or what were you, or
mate? I'd probably be a goalie too, a really bad one. Yeah. I played competitive cricket for a long time. Played for New South Wales, and I was a wicketkeeper. So sort of similar reflexes.
Hand-eye coordination.
I used to just rely on my speed. It wasn't all about the skill, but got me out of a few tricky situations.
To be fair, seeing you on the pitch today a little bit, I can see that, you know.
Is that saying my skills aren't good enough?
No, I'm just saying.
Speaking about on the pitch today, I've got some video footage of Dhiren having a crack at goal and Maty saving it. There's a bit of debate as to whether the ball went in or not. I'm actually going to get it put up on the podcast, and I'll let listeners debate whether the ball went in or not. There was no net, so we couldn't see. I'm saying it was a clean save. Yeah. Dhiren's claiming goal.
I think it was a better penalty attempt than Wayne Rooney. So if you don't know, Maty Ryan saved a pretty epic Wayne Rooney penalty.
When did you gravitate into the goals? How old were you?
I was 10 years old. So I was basically, my best mate at the time was my next door neighbour, and his father had a bit of background in football also, playing at a bit of a level growing up. So from quite a young age, he had 3 other brothers as well. So he had them going down the park and doing extra training and all that. And he was a striker, and the other boys were attackers and all that as well. So they were doing drills that he made up for them, and they needed a goalkeeper. And I was like, I was a bit of a, why not attitude, go down, I'll give things a go. And went down, I used to jump in goal. And in that same year, he took his son away from the team we were playing in to start playing a representative team at a higher level. And I just continued playing local park football. And halfway through the season, their goalkeeper, their family up and left and moved interstate. And he come to me and goes, we need a goalkeeper. I've seen you, obviously, when you've been training with my boy, you want to come along. And basically I went along to the session, and I look back now, it's probably a little bit naive, but the coach asked me, he goes, where's your, because I only came down with like the warm, like mitten gloves, that's all I had. And he asked me, just like,
pretty hardcore.
He goes, where's your goalkeeper gloves? And it was probably naive of me to say, my mum said she'll buy me a pair if I make the team. So, but funnily enough, after that session, he said, "Yep, you're in. You're part of the team." So
that was that pivotal moment in your life, crazy. Then really, when you look back, if your friends didn't ask you to come down and just be the token goalkeeper while they practice their striking, you might not have been here.
Now you're Australia's number 1.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how obviously journeys play out and whatnot, but that's where mine started with the goalkeeping. So
yeah, what other sports did you play as a kid?
Probably the 2 sports I grew up playing competitively, most competitive, was football and tennis.
Mm-hmm. What position were you in footy?
I like to play 5'8".
Ooh, you'd have been a crafty 5'8", I reckon. Yeah, pretty elusive.
Because obviously I had the soccer and the footwork and all that. They used to just sort of give me the ball, and I used to do a couple of footwork, side steps type of thing, and get them out of trouble and run the field and score a few tries. So.
Big 5'8", though. How tall are you?
Me, I'm 6 foot now.
Were you tall when you were a kid?
Not back then. I was a late bloomer, Yeah. So, I mean, people don't see me as being tall as it is as a goalkeeper. It's just lucky, I guess, that you guys are a little bit shorter than myself,
Well, Hal's a late bloomer too. He's only 12. He's already 7'2". So, yeah, he's got some growing to do.
Still growing.
I seen him this morning. I was thinking, who's this man, baby?
So that was your first sort of foray into like representative football at a local level. How did you go from that as a youngster to your first break the Mariners? Would you call that your first sort of decent break in footy?
Yeah, well, that was my first professional club. So in terms of wanting to take the step into a professional, first step in my dream of what I wanted to be doing, then yeah, they gave me my first chance at that.
So how does that scouting process come about? How did you just get a call one day hey, move to the Central Coast?
Yeah, so basically I grew up playing my junior football in representative level at Blacktown City. My goalkeeper coach at that time at Blacktown City ended up being the goalkeeper coach at the Mariners also. And I'd played 1 year in the youth team at the Mariners, played all my juniors growing up, like I said, and got to that age where I could play the youth team, under 20s it was. Played 1 year there, and then it just worked out that a position, another goalkeeper took another opportunity at a different club to want to play first team football, and that opened the door for a position to be available, and I got notified that they wanted to select me to fulfill that position. And then a bit like a Stephen Bradbury ice skating Olympics moment, the the first team goalkeeper that was signed at the time in that pre-season where I'd signed wanted to try go overseas and made a move to go overseas. So that opened up a door there. They signed another experienced goalkeeper that was over in Europe that came back to Australia at that time to play. In the third game of the season, he'd done his cruciate ligament. And funnily enough, the goalkeeper that left in the pre-season, his deal fell through in Turkey, some discrepancies with the contracts and all that. And it actually, a week before that, had signed at a rival team here in the A-League, Dani Vukovic, and they weren't able to sign anyone else. So they were sort of left with me, had to throw me in the deep end. And
how nervous were you, first stepping up?
Yeah.
Were you like, were the nerves a thing?
Oh, definitely, mate. The first game was playing at Aussie Stadium, Sydney FC, and that's obviously one of the most renowned stadiums here in Australia. And you know, as a young kid with no experience playing in a professional game, you know, all the TV cameras around and all that, you know, I'm not. This isn't just being watched by a bunch of people, you know, in a park anymore. All of a sudden, there's 20,000, 15,000 people here in the stadium watching. Plus, it's on TV. Oh, if I make a mistake, I'm going to look like an idiot.
The pressure on a goalie, you know, anybody else makes a mistake, it's like a goalie makes a mistake, it's a goal.
Which is the reason why I've come to love the position.
Yeah.
It's one of the positions in sport where your margin for error is so minimal, if any. If you know, you could make 10 great saves in a game, you make one mistake, and that's what everyone remembers the game for. So it's almost like a position within the sport, whereas you have to play a perfect game in order to be considered to have had a good game. And I'm a perfectionist in a lot of aspects in my life, and I think that stems right up into, you know, my life as a goalkeeper. So.
Yeah. And what about the nerves these days? Do you still get nervous before a game?
Yeah, I think there's a few little butterflies. Once I sort of get out and do the warm up and all that, I feel like I settle. But definitely my experiences in my career until now have helped me get to, I guess, the tolerance of them up until this point. But I think it's more excitement now, you know, the opportunity to be creating a lifelong memory through being successful, you know, making a save against one of the best players in the world who plays for one of the best teams in the world, where we're playing in one of the best stadiums in the world that I grew up watching as a kid, idolising with my jaw dropped, you know, what a level, you know.
And you face basically, you know, the best of the best right now. I mean, Messi,
that's
Rooney, Suarez, Van Persie, like basically
that's like this
Aguero, Mo Salah, like it's crazy who you.
It sounds surreal, man, but like that's what I'm doing, you know, and I love it. Like, you know, like I said, you know, you touched on earlier today that penalty save against Wayne Rooney I had, you know, that guy, one of the best players the game's ever produced,
most prolific scorer, more penalties than almost anybody else.
Exactly, and you know, I saved the penalty against him, you know, and that's etched in my memory forever. And I'll be telling people that, you know, grandkids and all that for the rest of my life.
And now you've saved a goal against Dhiren. I mean, like even
debatable.
higher.
Might
I'm not sure if it's, you know, it's going to be on the same level playing field, you know, as the story I'll tell about Rooney. So.
We'll check the replay, but
So you're at the Mariners for a couple of years, and then you get the call up to the Socceroos team. Like, are you at this stage in your career just going, what? Like, this is happening quickly. Like, what age were you at that when you got the call up? What was it, 2012 or something?
Yeah, so pinching myself. So I think my first Socceroos camp was, I think my second year in the A-League or something like that. So I must have been, 19, 20 like that. And when I was first involved, that was another jaw-dropping moment because that's when all the golden generation was still in, like the Harry Kills.
Was it Schwarzer in goal?
Was in there. You know, all these guys that I'd grown up idolising, obviously, in the sport that I had the biggest passion for, and all of a sudden I'm sitting opposite them at dinner, eating and all that, and I'm just like...
Did you ever... I'm not saying you shouldn't feel... Like, did you ever sit there and think,
is this
what
real
am I doing here? Like, is this...
100%.
Like, obviously you earned your position, so I'm not going to say that you didn't, but at some point you get this, like, I don't know what they call it, imposter syndrome or something, where you're sitting there going, what am I doing with all these legends sitting here? Should I be here? But obviously you've gone on to blossom, your career's killing it, but at that time, 19, 20, it's a lot to take in at that age.
For sure.
Crazy.
That was always running. I'm like, it was disbelief really that I was sitting there, you know, with the likes of these guys and that have been playing at the pinnacle of the game and achieved so much, you know, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, is this real? And what, you know, what am I doing here? Type of thing. And I mean, you know, some of those lessons that I had in those periods, being there with them and seeing how they conduct themselves and all that. Like, I've always been someone to try be attentive and learn things through other people's experiences, because that would help me without having to go through that experience myself, you know. Or if you can learn of someone else's mistake, or, you know, someone else's triumph or something like that, that's that's a moment you don't have to go through yourself, you know, in order to have to learn from it. So you accelerate your learning a little bit. So
each generation sort of benefits from that learnings
so,
of the past. So did you have much exposure to Schwarzer at that point? Like, was he mentoring you or helping you, or was it just a clean changeover?
I think his mentoring come like just as a sort of ticking off the box of him just being himself.
Yeah.
He set such an example. That's what he's been renowned for also. You know, you talk about myself being one of the hardest workers and all that. You know, you looked at him. I mean, look how long his career has gone for. And, you know, the lengths, you know, it's not a coincidence. The lengths that he went to in his professionalism, you know, to keep himself fit, healthy, to be able to allow himself to play at his highest level until he was 42, 43 once he eventually retired. And that's a lesson I learned firsthand from seeing him, you know, keeping himself in good nick, all the sacrifices he's made. And that's exactly my motivation as well, to go for as long as I can, as well as I can. It's a long time retired from being an athlete, so that's my motivation. And I learned a lot of great lessons from him, just being there. Whether he was conscious of being a mentor or not, he was definitely a mentor in my books. So
yeah. And do you still stay in contact with any of those guys?
Yeah, definitely.
That aren't playing anymore.
Yeah, Schwartz is working in media over there in England, and also here in Australia with Optus Sport and that. So you quite often bump shoulders with them. Timmy Cahill as well has just recently retired, obviously, and he's in the media stuff. And I don't know if in the quarantine I did that push-up challenge.
Yeah,
saw
that.
And that. Timmy got involved in that and pulled it off as well, you know. And he's another one that he's got an X factor with his. He had this knack of producing, you know, at the right time for whatever reason or what. It's hard to put your finger on, but his production for his national team, for his club, Everton and Millwall and whoever else he played for. He just had this knack to produce on the world stage, and that's given him the reputation and all the success he's had in his lifetime until now. And it's nice to still stay in touch with them and trying to emulate and even better what they've done, you know, because if I'm able to do that, I'm going to be looking back on a life that's been amazing. Yeah,
it's awesome looking at those players that just seem to have this gift. Like, they work hard and they've got the right mental approach and everything, but then there's this extra layer of gift on top. And it's like we've been watching and talking about the last dance.
Chicago Bulls.
Bulls, Michael Jordan, and that's just watching that at an older age, you just come to appreciate the intensity and just the it factor that someone
underneath the surface.
I know, like all the odds were stacked against them, and they were just able to pull it out. But yeah, it's amazing, the mental aspect, and watching those truly sort of gifted athletes and what they're able to pull off. Pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool.
It's always funny. I've always found like the athletes that have always had the more illustrious career or achieved so much more have been the ones that I've seen on a day-to-day basis, or it's been widely documented that they've gone the extra length, extra distance to be even more committed, extra sacrifices. And I don't think, you know, it's not a coincidence. Like I said, you know, that can immerse themselves as, you know, the most that they can in their life to their craft and their career, and these guys are the ones that end up having those top careers. So I'm just trying to
it's no accident.
No, exactly.
They end up succeeding.
Well, it's that age-old question of, you know, is it your natural talent or is it your hard work? But, you know, really it's often a combination of the two.
Yeah, but what's the saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big believer of. You know, I think I'd rather much have someone that's working hard, that really wants something, has the drive to be the best that they can be, rather than just someone who's talented and think everything is going to come to them, you know. So I think there's a balance, but I learned quite early on growing up in Western Sydney, you know, you don't get anywhere without hard work, and all my family members, we never had the luxury of, you know, like money, finances, all these types of stuff. And I learned pretty early on that in order to even just to be able to provide for your families, you know, put food on the table, all those types of things, you got to work hard. And my mum was a single mum, working 2 to 3 jobs in order to provide for my sister and I, and my other family's the same, providing for their families. So I got that lesson, quite early on, and that's definitely, shaped me into the person I am, and got to be implementing that approach in the gym. When you're wanting to work hard and get stronger and be the best goalkeeper when you out on the pitch training hard as well. So
taking those life lessons and applying them to everything that you do.
Definitely. So.
And definitely shows like that hard work ethic as a youngster, and not being not growing up with a silver spoon in your mouth. You can see, and usually the elite level athletes that sort of get to the top level in their sport, they're always more grounded as well. When they're up there, it's like, okay, you're just a normal guy. You're a good guy. So yeah, it's interesting. So you're at the Mariners. You got the call up there. You've made the Socceroos team. World Cup 2014. 2 years later again. Yeah. It's just all happening. Tell us about that World Cup, because the 2014 World Cup, you guys actually did quite well.
Yeah, well, obviously it's a matter of opinion. I guess we didn't win a game or nothing like that. But performance-wise, we
played well.
Yeah.
We did match it.
Against some tough teams.
Yeah. But obviously, the tougher the challenge, the better the triumph. So if we were able to obviously beat those quality teams, that it makes it even more better. Like winning a game, here in the A-League compared to winning a game in the Premier League, just because how tough it is in the Premier League, and
every point counts.
That ultimate, that pinnacle, it's so much better. In a World Cup, I mean, that was like a big slap in the face, I think the realization of just how global the game is, because I'd never witnessed a playing level to that level ever in my career. I'd gone from 3 years in the A-League and 1 year in Belgium, and with all due respect to the A-League and Belgium, they're decent leagues, or they're okay leagues, but they're not leagues like the Premier League or a World Cup or nothing like that. So I was very naive looking back now on my experience there, and I wasn't happy with the way I performed. My performances didn't go as I had foreseen them or sort of prepared them to go. Obviously, I wanted to go there and perform well for the country and do the country proud and help us win games and even progress as far as we could. But I think I went in there with the wrong mental approach. I went in there, thinking that, I'm playing the likes of Van Persie, Ian Robben, Alexis Sanchez, Vidal, these types of players, and thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to become Superman or, a superhero to stop the likes of these shots and all that. And I look back now and think that that was a mistake. I think I should have relied more on what I had done to get me there. I was there for a reason from what I had shown until now. Obviously, showing that growth mindset and drive to want to get even better, but I was trying to create something in my head that I needed to become, which, a superhero, it's not obviously, it's not logical. It doesn't happen. But I think if I had more faith in what I had and more belief in myself, in what I had, that I had the right tools to go out and stop, I think I could have performed much more to the level of how I foreseen myself doing it.
You're also 22 at this age, or 23 or something.
Easier
So
it's
like,
yeah. Well, I was young at the time, so but like I said, my motivation is to win. I want to win. I'm a biggest sore loser, and
are you competitive in all sports?
Everything. Not even sports. Board games, arguments, debates, all these types of stuff. Never wanting to be wrong. So
imagine if Hal went to the World Cup, 22 years old, Australia's goalie.
I know.
Yeah.
22. I thought he was 12. You keep telling me.
No, his actual age is 22.
So how did the 2014 World Cup differ to 2018? You're settling in a bit more in the next one and feeling a bit more confident?
Yeah, just the experience thing. Had a couple more years. Had learned from my experiences at that World Cup. Wanted to implement that moving forward.
At that point, are you considered like a senior member of the Socceroos team?
By that time, I'd notched over 50 games in the national team at that point. So I think, in terms of in the squad, I was one with a more high number of games, and also just before that World Cup, I'd played one full season in the Premier League. Once I had that taste of that first World Cup in Brazil, in order to better equip myself for World Cups moving forward, and even on a domestic level, my goal was to try and get to a league which emulated or mimicked that of a World Cup, and that was going to be either playing in England, Spain, Italy, or Germany. In my opinion, are the four probably best leagues football-wise in terms of the level of play, and that was my motivation from that moment on. And I had one more year in Belgium, in Bruges, and I got to move to Valencia in Spain. And I was thinking, this is it, the club being involved in Champions League, qualifications, and obviously playing in the La Liga against Barcelona, Real Madrid and Messi, these types of players, And I knew if I had more experience playing at that level, I'd get more accustomed to it, I'd get up to speed, being exposed to that sort of level and learning those types of lessons, I'd grow and get better, so that in the future I'd be excelling at that level, and World Cups would come around and I'd be better. Unfortunately, it didn't quite go out that way. I got a few injuries, a bit of instability in the club. I had 5 different managers in a year and a half. It didn't quite pan out. In saying that, still plenty of lessons to learn from. And then before that next World Cup, I had 1 full year in the Premier League as I had changed clubs to Brighton, and that regular football at that level, playing against these players that we touched on, these stadiums, these teams and all that, and working within that environment, being exposed to the adversity that I'd faced in the level of players coming up against, better equipped me for that World Cup. And I think personally, on a personal performance at that World Cup, I did a lot better than what I did in the previous World Cup. And that journey is still going now. All the accolades and everything you achieve, it's all great and all that, but whilst I'm still able to play mentally, physically and all that, there's always the next thing for me that I want to achieve and want to win and create as many lifelong memories to being successful as I can.
And obviously coming up against the World Cup winners, France, Mbappe, Griezmann, these kind of guys up front.
Yeah, and I don't know how I'm guessing you will remember that game quite well. Like, we got beat by a dubious penalty decision with VAR.
Could have been so different.
One deflection that was, for what reason the deflections happens like that, I don't know, but it was a real tight game, and they ended up being world champions, so
it's crazy.
We were very much in the games we played there, and we drew obviously with Denmark as well, and they're top 15 or 10 team in the world, I think they are. So
Christian Eriksen as well.
But that just goes to show at that level, the margin for success, and it's so minimal. Like different moments in games that make the difference, and unfortunately, we weren't able to capitalise on the moments to help us to have progressed further.
How is that Brazilian crowd? They're ruthless over there.
Yeah,
they're crazy. They're fanatical about every sport that they're good at.
South Americans, sport-wise, I don't know if you've seen the footage of, even in Argentina, but yeah, Brazil themselves in football. That's also what made the Brazil World Cup so great. Like, Brazil is known pretty much as the capital of football.
Yeah.
So to be there and the hype around it and everything, it was just amazing to be a part of. And I want to get to as many as I can and enjoy as many as I can, and even win as many World Cup games as I can, because they're going to result in more memories that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So.
That's it. Yeah. So you found a nice little home at Brighton now. You seem to be sort of settled in, playing some great football. Tell us about Brighton. How did that come about as well? And tell us about the club. And you seem to really settled in, enjoying your time there.
Yeah, great club. I love it there. Like I said, ticking that box and playing at the pinnacle, the highest level, week in, week out now, which I didn't get in Valencia, unfortunately. But, living my dream at that level, and equipping my skills, taking them to other levels to help me, even improve and, yeah, like I said, create those memories. And it basically come about, my time there in Valencia. I hadn't played that much, and I'd gone on loan in January for the rest of the season back to Belgium, where I played previously, but in a different club. And the idea was just to sort of get some rhythm again after having some injuries and not being in favour with the coaches. I hadn't played a lot, so I'd gone out on loan to a club in a bit of a lower step down, you would say, and got some rhythm again, started playing again with the view of going back to Valencia to hopefully hit the ground running again and play. But the way it worked out, Brighton were a team that were keen on me before, when they were in the division below. They had almost got promoted a couple of years in a row, and a few years before that, a couple of players that were playing in England had come to me and goes, "What did you think about this team, Brighton?" and that, and for me, when they weren't in the Premier League, I wasn't so interested. I'd rather be playing in the top league in Belgium rather than in the second division in England. So I sort of just stayed on my path. But then the goalkeeper coach was a former teammate of my agent.
Wow.
And I got in contact with him and saying, we're really interested, and it was looking like Brighton were going to get promoted. So they started to plant the seed in that there's interest, and would you be interested in coming there? And they just built a new stadium, new training facility, state-of-the-art staff and all this, and the amount of research and homework on the amount of games they had watched me play and all the statistics they were throwing at me. I'm like, man, they've been watching me
for a while.
A bit like Dinham, you knew all
yeah, that's it.
were you working for Brighton at the time?
Yeah.
There's your knowledge,
So, he does his own work.
But yeah, and all that, and I'm like, that's someone that, that just screamed of something that really wanted me for me, and what I was. And when obviously someone knows that much about you, they've done their homework on you and makes you feel good, you feel wanted, and it all worked out and panned out, and that was going to be their first year in the Premier League, their first ever year in the top division in England, and they wanted me to be a part of it, and it all fell into place. They approached Valencia and said they wanted to put in an offer, wanted to buy me. The next thing I knew is that a transfer fee had been agreed, and I was clear to start negotiating personal terms, and I was like, okay, well, the writing's on the wall, so if they're happy to let me go, then it probably doesn't say much about my career there. So I want to play first team football. I don't want to sit on the bench. I don't want to not play. And
you want to play for someone that wants you as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's good to know that you're wanted.
And then you go and play every single game of the season.
Yeah.
And you're having a cracker. And I think there's going to be a few more clubs with their eyes on you at the moment, I'd say.
I mean, that's I guess a benefit if I'm able to sustain my level and keep playing to a level that I guess warrants that. But that's just my focus, to try and contribute to the best of my ability to Brighton, and whatever happens and happens. My next goal is I want to be playing Champions League, European football, together with playing in a league like the English Premier League and that. So I'm doing my best to help Brighton get there, and fingers crossed we can make steps towards doing that. But if that's not going to eventuate, then I don't know, someone else comes along or whatnot. But my focus is the present, and that stuff, I guess, will tick it off, or that stuff will happen if I deserve it, So.
Yeah.
Exciting. And you're still pretty young for a goalie. Goalies keep going until closer to 40 nowadays, so still a baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I still feel like, like coming now, you're getting old when some players that are born in the year 2000 and that are playing these days, and I'm like, far out. Getting old now, but yeah, like you said, luckily for a goalkeeper, hopefully I still got it over 12 years, 14 years maybe. I'm basically living my life to play for as long as I can. So
Well, we were talking about it before the podcast, the importance of strength and conditioning, especially for goalies. They do have that opportunity to play to an extended age. And you are known as the most jackedest and rippedest football player out there. If you don't believe me, go and Google Maty with his shirt off. It's pretty ripped. So you do a fair bit of strength and conditioning. I know we did sort of touch on it outside the podcast here, but training a couple of times a week?
Yeah.
Yep.
Obviously got football training, but...
How often's football training? Are you there every day?
Generally, it depends on the structure of a week, but at the minute, and it depends on the manager as well, the coaches. Everyone obviously has their own tweaks on things, but generally, I would say it's 2 days off a week. So at the minute in England, we play a Saturday, for example. A Sunday might be off, and then we'll train a Monday, Tuesday, have a Wednesday off, train Thursday, Friday, play Saturday.
Right.
Or it's a play Saturday, recovery on Sunday. Monday, Tuesday off. No, sorry, just Monday off. Training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So you're doing your own strength and conditioning earlier in the week, obviously, so you're fresh for the game.
Yep.
Are you working with a strength and conditioning coach, or do you do a bit yourself as well on the side?
Yep. So we are within our clubs. We have employed strength and conditioning coaches, and we have programs. But once again, it depends on each club is a little bit different with how they structure it all. But at Brighton, at the current stage, we have our programs that we need to, tick off in what we do. But on top of that, also, I like to do, my own sort of stuff as well to, I don't know, fine tune even a few more other things, or maybe gain an advantage somewhere. So I'm always getting in the gym and doing a few extras. And if I'm not doing a gym program, I'm always in there doing like a prehab program, or a program to warm me up for a training session or something like that. Always trying to take advantage of everything I've got around me to stay fit, injury free, and at the top of my game.
At the end of the day, nobody's ever going to lift a weight for you, So you got to take control sometimes. And I know we talked about the story about Rooney and Ronaldo before, and kind of the focusing on technique versus physical conditioning. But of course, you're quite well known for your explosiveness, and 6 foot. It's tall for a normal person, but relatively short for a goalie. So the physicality kind of comes into your game quite a lot.
Yeah, definitely. That was another thing I learned growing up. I mean, I wasn't getting selected for some sort of representative teams as a young kid because, maybe I wasn't good enough or whatever, but I think a lot of it was down to my lack of height. I mean, I'm only 6 foot, like you say, and for a goalkeeper, that's quite short, and I was a late bloomer as well. And, but, I was lucky to have, good people around me with the right advice, telling me to focus on things I can control, like my strength and my speed and agility and those types of things, athleticism, rather than focusing on how tall you're going to grow and all those types of things. And, they were lessons I learned quite early. And, would you rather be the best now at 15, 14, or in 5 years' time when you're 20 and you're a professional and it's important and it matters, And, the likes of my mum and some other mentors I had around me, coaches and all that, they had the right advice at that time, helped me through those periods, and it's been something that I've obviously had to rely upon, and I'm very open-minded, other goalkeepers or even other people in general with their lives, how they live it, like I'm very much, open to the fact that the way I live my life, isn't perhaps the same as the way someone else lives it, and that's not meaning that my way is better or his way is better. I'm always open and to see if what they do can help benefit my life, or on the other hand, I always give things a go to see if it's better. Same principle with my football, watching other goalkeepers. I'm not saying my style of goalkeeper is better than Courtois'. We're different body shapes, and he's performed and he does what he believes is best for him and gives him the best chance, and I try to do what is best for me, and I try to watch these guys and see what they do and try certain things, and if it benefits me, it's great. If not, I've given it a go and whatnot. So in my current state, obviously I don't have the reach and the height and all that of some other things, so I'm working hard on the athleticism and the speed and quickness to move around the goal and be quicker and try and make up in that department.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on that on a few other podcasts. There's more than one route to the top of the mountain, and whether it's fat loss, building muscle, or your goalkeeping skills, you got to find what works for you and build on that. And it looks like you've been doing a pretty good job.
Do you have a specific? Because I'll refer back to when I was playing cricket and wicket-keeping. We had a specific wicket-keeping coach, and a lot of our training took place outside of the rest of the team. Is it the same for a goalie? Like, do you have a specific goalie coach, and is a lot of your training sort of separate to the rest of the team?
Yep. Every team I've been in, once I got to a professional level, has a full-time goalkeeping coach in it, and we're only really required with the team when there's sort of games or stuff, or sort of shooting drills. But my general work, I'm straight out with the goalkeeping coach in the beginning. We're doing a warm-up and that. Some days I don't even go across with the team at all. We have, like at a club like us, obviously we have a number of academies at the club, younger keepers. So if the team during the week needs a shooting drill and all that, sometimes our goalkeeper coach will send the younger kids over there, just because the strikers need someone in goal. It's not really important if it's myself or someone else, in the first team. So they'll do that whilst we can get all our technical work done. And he's got a good gauge on structuring all those types of sessions to make sure we all get what we need through a week's work to make sure we're ready come game day. So
how do you go like bonding with the rest of the team? Have a lot of your training sort of, are you like you're not like a punter in the NFL, are you? Are they just like, the punter, not really part of the team? I'd say it'd be different for a goal. You're a crucial part of the team, but do you guys spend a fair bit of time together outside of training and stuff?
Yeah, we're still rubbing shoulders, obviously, around the
Well, not
place.
At the moment. No rubbing shoulders at the moment.
Nah, not at the minute, obviously, the social distancing. But, figuratively speaking. Yeah. We're obviously still around and got a good relationship. But there is such thing in football known as the Goalkeepers Union, whereas, obviously, the field players like to think we're all a bit crazy. You know, everyone thinks you've got to be crazy to be a goalkeeper. And all
Oh, you
that.
do. They're known as the serial killers of the game.
Yeah, well, yeah. See, I feel that's a little bit of a misconception, but at the same point, there are some crazy ones out there, you know.
Well, who would want that pressure? You got to be somewhat crazy to want that pressure.
You got to be a little bit crazy when you're jumping for a ball in the corner and Van Dijk's standing there in front of you. You know.
I can see that point of view, I guess, yeah, a little bit, but you know.
Yeah.
You know, you look at MMA fighters, you know, they've got to be crazy for wanting to get hit in the face, or boxers, you know, and
They're
all
nuts,
these types of
yeah.
things. So, you know, obviously Rob Whittaker and all these types of guys that are, you know,
Animal.
I guess they just got to be better at beating someone else rather than getting beat themselves.
Well, that's it.
That's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when it comes time to switch on, I think you guys, the elite level athletes, all have that ability to just switch on and go for it.
What about nutrition? So obviously
Yeah.
we talked about training and your physicality, explosiveness, and your skills. Where does nutrition fit into the
Yeah,
picture?
you're pretty strict from what we've seen, which is good. And like we've said in previous podcasts, we've dealt with a lot of athletes that don't know a lot about nutrition. Some do, some are really good, but you are sort of spot on and on point.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about your nutrition and maybe what you eat during the day and what you steer clear from. And
Yeah, I just think it's sort of a bit of a roll on from, you know, being attentive. You know, I'm always trying to be knowledgeable and, you know, look after myself. And like I said, prolong my career. That's my motivation behind everything. And I guess even aside from that, you know, there's no better feeling in life being like fit and healthy. You know, I think everyone's life is complemented when you're able to achieve that. And nutrition is obviously a major part of that. You know, obviously a little bit like the concept of fueling a car. You know, the type of gasoline that you want to put in it is obviously the premium stuff, and you know, I try to go about the same things. And there's a lot of studies and stuff out there, and you just got to try. You know, I think you got to be aware of the fact there's perhaps you know biased education out there, and
a lot of bro science.
this type of stuff. You know, so you know, I try to do what I feel is best for myself and how I felt consuming certain things. But yeah, just a lot of whole grains and you know, quality protein through clean meats. I don't eat a lot of red meat, so a lot of, you know, white meat, chicken protein are probably the ones I go to. And yeah, the whole grains are like you know, brown rice, quinoa, and you know, granola and these types of stuff in the morning. And yeah, plenty of fruit and veg and all those types of stuff.
So how many meals a day are you aiming for?
I eat 3.
Yep.
I don't really.
So just brekkie, lunch, dinner.
Yeah, I don't really snack. I sort of got out of the habit of snacking a lot, but if you saw me eat my meals, like I eat mountains of plates. I'm telling you. But
so you're getting all those calories in 3 meals. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all like good stuff. And then obviously on top of that, you know, you guys with your Musashi products as well. You know,
you're a plant protein guy. You're off dairy.
Yeah, that's another thing. Just from what I've sort of researched and read and all that and consumed myself, I find staying off dairy can help a little bit. And they say sort of other cancerous causing things by having it. You know, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But that's a personal decision that I've made. And yeah, luckily the way the world's going these days, there's always more options. Catering for vegans and people wanting to go dairy free and all those types of things. And you know, you guys are an example of that as well with, you know, the plant proteins that you just provide. You got 2 flavors there, and it's a big help. And you know, now obviously even just chatting to you guys, haven't been here with you, is learning a little bit more about, you know, the rapid digestive rate of, you know, the proteins that you guys, because it's not been something that I've really been a lot on, because a lot of the other products I've had in the past and that teams have, you know, it's had the dairy in them, so I've just stayed away and just sort of got my nutrients from the food itself. But you know, you guys have been educating me today on the benefits of the protein powders and these types of things, and I'm really keen to, you know, to get into that and see the benefits from that.
Yeah.
Well,
pretty cool.
not long ago in the Premier League, you know, players were still eating sausage rolls and pies around.
It still happens to this day. I'm telling you, some of the guys.
Wow, yeah.
You see it in the NRL as well. This guy's getting a pie an hour and a half before a game. You think?
Well, people used to have a, you know, halftime cigarette not too long ago at all. You know,
that was the secret to your powerlifting success, wasn't it?
I don't know. Actually, there's a study about nicotine and your strength, but I haven't gone down that route yet.
Nicotine's apparently, there's a lot of ex-fighters apparently putting nicotine patches, because apparently nicotine's got some good effects for like CTE.
Oh wow.
Brain trauma and stuff. Okay. So I'm not recommending it to anyone, but I've heard some stuff about it. It's pretty cool.
We'll look into it. Well, actually, you know, there's the story about how Arsene Wenger came into the Premier League with Arsenal, and really transformed the attitude towards nutrition. A lot of people don't know this, but Arsene Wenger was very regimented in what he did for his team and implementing these nutrition practices. Everybody had diets that they've never seen before. No more sausage rolls, no more pies. Vitamins. Every single player had a strict vitamin regime, even to the extent of getting B12 injections. And Arsenal was obviously performing so well when Arsene Wenger came into the scene, and with the Invincibles and things like that. They actually got accused of steroid usage because because of the injectable B12s and vitamins that people haven't seen before.
Is that right?
Yeah, obviously they were really on top of the nutrition and things like that now, and evolved to where we get to today in the Premier League, where I'm sure every single club is right on top of the game when it comes to nutrition. I know like Manchester United has vitamin D3 chambers and things like that, because obviously you're not getting as much sunlight in the winter.
Yep.
Darker skin, you don't absorb much, so different players would go into the vitamin D chambers and things, and it's really getting advanced now.
Do you guys have a sports nutritionist or a sports dietitian?
Yep. We've got one employed within the club that helps out with all that type of stuff.
Most clubs do now.
Yeah.
Everyone all the clubs we deal with, they do.
And you were also telling us about some of the other things that you do for your recovery, like the sauna and things like that.
We are big fans of sauna and ice baths here.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
as well.
We're in the sauna heaps.
Not together, but
yeah. Well, there was that one occasion.
one time.
Yeah, I remember that one time actually.
Yeah,
we hung in there for a bit too long. Dhiren got a bit dizzy.
Yeah,
was
I
all
tapped
right.
out. Yeah.
We were in there for
A
ages.
little bit worried in the direction of where that
Yeah,
story was
yeah.
going.
Well,
I
so
thought there
was
was a
I.
reason there was only one time. I didn't know what happened, for what that reason may have been.
Dhiren's too traumatized to talk about it. So.
But yeah.
How often are you getting in the sauna?
Yeah, generally once or twice a week. I'm normally in it.
How long do you stay in it for when you're in there?
10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
We're actually just having renovations or added onto our building structure there at our training ground. I think we're getting a hyperbaric chamber put in there. We're getting more rooms than that to have some beds that we can lie down on and sleep. I think we're getting some other type of recovery pool and all this put in with special water and all this type of stuff.
Shit's getting real there.
Yeah.
Exactly. But as you talked on, that's the way everyone's going. Everyone's becoming more aware of the advancements in certain technologies and everything. To help everyone perform. The margin for being successful is so thin. So everyone is doing whatever they can to try achieve that. And
recovery is everything for an athlete. The quicker you can recover, and the more efficiently you can recover, the better you're going to perform the next day. It's like it's crazy that it's only just recent years that people are really starting to focus on their recovery through sauna, ice baths, massage, and hyperbaric chambers and stuff like that. So yeah.
And you said hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, but you also got to work smart, and you're very knowledgeable about what you're talking about. We can tell, and going into the sauna, eating this whole grain diet and things like that. Obviously, it's having a tremendous effect on you.
I appreciate the kind words, man. You're very complimentary.
Too many compliments. That's it.
But no, I appreciate it. But that's an important point that you make, like quality over quantity, because you can be doing certain things, but if you're not doing like quality types of these examples, then it's just going to be just as non-helpful or detrimental, than obviously being good for you. So
it's one thing to say work hard, and it's another thing to go out and push yourself to the limit every single day. That's not the smartest way.
If you're saying work hard and someone's going in the gym and doing 2,000 push-ups before doing a field session, that's probably a perfect example, because you're going to smash yourself there. You're going to be so sore you can't move. You're not going to be able to work on your technical. You're not in my position. You're not a weightlifter or a bodybuilder. You're not trying to build muscle or anything. You need to obviously, do the perfect amount. To,
it's secondary to your main goal,
exactly,
which is keeping clean sheets.
Yeah, exactly. That's my goal. So
it's not like you walk off the field and training's over anymore. There's the recovery, everything you have to do for recovery. And are you so you're doing ice bath after every session, or is that just a couple of times a week? Well?
Yeah, ice bath. For me at the training ground we have a cryo chamber as well. So it's either one or the other for me.
What's your preference?
What's
easier? Because you got people on both sides of it. I hear people that love cryo. For me, I love ice bath is way harder for me. It's the biggest challenge, and we did it at the last fitness expo. It was basically there was no water in this thing. It was just purely ice
cubes.
Dhiren went full zen. I don't know where he went. I was looking at him. I was like looking at the guy, get me out of here. Like I was mentally breaking. He had to talk me down to like, stay in there, stay in there. I think we were in there for like 3 or 4 minutes in total, but it was a battle. After about a minute, you settle in.
Yeah. Do you go neck deep or
neck deep and then finish by going completely under?
It's all part of how you do it as well.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm in the ice bath, there have been some times where I've gone neck deep in it, and that's just another kettle of fish.
Can't breathe.
Yeah. Other times you go in there, you just stand up in the one we have, and it's up to your waist, and then you can be there on your phone. So it's like a distraction. So that's quite easy. Going in the cryo chamber, you don't have any of that stuff. That's like 2 minutes in there, and it's minus whatever it is, 150 or whatever it is. So that can be more harder, but I'm very much for one, like, don't really care what type of state or pain or whatever temporary pain, short pain I could be in, struggle or whatever. If it's going to benefit me, I'll give it a go.
That's that serial killer coming out in you again.
Sometimes you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. Getting out of your comfort zone,
Exactly.
It's those types of adversities that help you grow. So being in a cryo chamber, then, so be it. But I'd probably get more in the cryo chamber, to be honest, because I think there's more of these studies saying it's more beneficial these days, or as these scientists are saying. I haven't read too much into it, but
the one that you went into, the lady was saying it can dehydrate you, so you really got to you really got to hydrate well after you've been in a cryo chamber. But
is that right?
They're super popular now; they're everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's hard for a lot of everyday footballers to have access to a cryo tank, but you could always swing by the petrol station, pick up a couple bags of ice on the way home, and
if you got a bathtub or whatever at home,
But there's also ice is also a controversial issue, when it comes to training, because they say it actually blunts the training response, so you're not getting the same adaptation to it. So
you're meant to do it away from your training time.
Yeah,
like at least a few hours after. Yeah, that's the sort of the latest science is.
Yeah,
because you actually want your body to go through that adaptive process.
You want the stress, and you want to adapt to the stress rather than blunting the stress. But it's that balance between recovering for the next session or trying to get as much growth and benefits from your training as possible.
It's probably a fine line about it all. You don't want to. At the same time, there was a period when I was in Valencia and I had all the stresses I wasn't playing, where I really experimented with my diet. I was doing like keto stuff and all this, and being really regimented and all this type of stuff, seeing if I got a benefit from it and all that. And that actually brought on some other stress issues I had during that period as well. And sort of since then, I've sort of, toned that back a little bit and just been, happy with what I've been doing and all that. I think you got to find a comfort zone in a certain aspect to it all, that what you're doing is benefiting you, and you can't, I guess, read into it too much, and if you're going to just fry your brain reading into too many studies to do this, do that.
Oh, it's and we still know nothing about nutrition, recovery, really, in the scheme of things, and everyone thinks their method's the best, but we're big proponents of you try everything, find what works best for you, and that's what works.
Self-experimentation, you got to find out what's best for you.
I agree.
Hey, I want to quickly touch on the recent bushfires at the beginning of the year in Australia. You had a pretty cool initiative to raise some funds for the Australian wildlife. Mm-hmm. Do you just want to talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that was really awesome.
Basically, being over there, seeing everything that was going on, and not the bushfires just gone, but the ones previously, about 5 years ago. My uncle actually lost his house, so it was obviously a little bit of extra fuel to it and all those types of things. But just I guess me also being influenced by other people that I'd seen out there, going out of their way to donate and help those in need, and I just thought it'd come up. The Socceroos and the Players Federation had come up because we had decided to create a little fund in order to donate some of our salaries towards, and it just so happened to be that we had opened it just before the bushfire catastrophe was going on. So as a playing group, we decided to donate, and then I thought on top of that I'll go out and do my own little initiative, and there was a couple of like Optus and I think BN and someone else was like doing $1,000 for every goal scored, and I'm like, there's no incentive for us goalkeepers out there, so what can we do to help us goalkeepers? So I think the same weekend, I think Optus Sport was doing $1,000 a goal, and then I decided to do $500 for every save registered by a Premier League goalkeeper. So it was a little bit of a win-win, if it was a goal scored or a save, it was a nice little combination to hopefully help some of the people affected back home.
Awesome initiative. Were all the other goalies aware of it? Well, like, were you in contact via social or anything like that?
No,
Really?
I didn't have any contact with them. Obviously, It was there. I'm not sure if they've read it. I mean, after the game, one or two of their players come up to me and said, congrats on what you're doing. So I imagine some of them must have seen it and whatnot. But I think I had 5 saves in that game. So it was a nice little, I like to think I pulled my part a little bit,
Definitely.
So,
you ended up raising it was about 30 grand Australian or 28 or something.
28,000, I think it was.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was nice, and like I said, hopefully it goes to those in need.
Mate, that's why you're recognised as one of the good guys in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Did we have any fan questions for Maty, Hal? I know we had several. You're right to answer some questions from some fans.
Of course.
First of all, from Jack Fitzgerald, could you shed any light on the origins between the Brighton Crystal Palace rivalry? So obviously it's a very significant rivalry, but very few people are aware of how it actually started.
Yep.
You can shed some light on that.
Yeah, well, the big factor is the proximity. Even though it's still about, 70 kilometres away from where we are, they're the closest Premier League team to us. But the hatred really stems from a couple of games in the past. I think it was cup games where there was some controversy involved within the match, and the fans, obviously, the winning fans, obviously giving crap to the other fans and whatnot, and that's where it really stemmed from. And you definitely know there's a hatred there when the game's coming up during the week. So
all crowd related by the sounds of it.
Yeah, well.
Fan related.
We've always said the derby games are the ones for the fans.
Yeah.
It's another football match for us players. Obviously, we want to win every game just as much as one another, but it's really the fans when a derby's on that they obviously get that extra kick out of.
Do you guys play with a different level of intensity in those derby games, or is it just business as usual?
I think it's business as usual because sometimes you don't know the way a game pans out, some games they start a bit flatter, a bit slower for some reason, who knows what. Then you could play the same two teams a week later and then all of a sudden it starts to fire you. For the reasons for it, you don't know, there's so many factors, but we go out and just try our best and play and, have faith and belief in what we've done in order to prepare, and what we deliver on the game day is going to be enough to get the result for us.
So when football restarts now and, the chance that there could be no fans, it'll be a completely different.
Is it going to restart? Have you heard anything about it?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm not too sure. It's obviously such an unknown situation, so much uncertainty around. It's a lot the same for us. I mean, I know there's a lot of coverage of the lengths the government and the Premier League bodies and everyone are going to try and restart it. There's a lot of speculation out there that's what's going to happen, but. I'm just choosing to sit and wait till we get cold, hard facts from the governing bodies themselves on the decisions, because you could do your head in trying to think, is that going to happen because he said that? And
just get on YouTube. They got all the answers.
Yeah.
What else you got, Hal? Any other questions?
The follow-up to that question was, what are your thoughts on the chant, Maty Ryan, Socceroo, he hates the Palace?
What is that about?
They just came up with it, to be honest. I'm not too sure where it initiated. The He Hates Palace line came into it, but special connection with the fans. So whoever they hate, I hate also.
Okay.
So it's nice when you hear
also
it every
to
now
have
and
a
then.
song after you.
Yeah.
So they actually chanting that at a game?
Yeah,
How
during the
are you
games.
cracking up? Are you hearing this?
Yeah, no, for sure. Sometimes I acknowledge it or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
You
quite
go-
often after you've made a save or had a nice moment in the game or something, they'll get it out. And at the beginning of each match, also, when I'm going down to the goal with all the fans there and all that, they give it a chant. So
Before all this happened, did you actually play any games without the crowd there?
no, I've besides a friendly game behind closed doors and all that.
Yeah.
I have, but never to the extent that it's an actual proper official match and everything. So
Be interesting when you go back.
Yeah.
It's going to be weird
I think
because the
we'll-
crowd
It's gonna be weird
it's such
to
a
watch
significant
on TV.
part of the
Yeah.
game. Even just watching on TV, hearing that crowd gets you all ramped up as well.
Sure,
So
crowds
be the
are-
same with you.
atmospheres, all
Yeah,
that.
be
We'll have a
everything.
greater appreciation for them, I think.
Yeah.
If that does eventuate. So yeah.
I think they'll have a greater appreciation for athletes too. A lot of people missing sports and actually realising, oh, these guys are awesome. Any more questions?
A couple more. One is from Maty Ryan, and he asks, who do you think is the most annoying player to defend corners against?
Oh, here we go. We're going to dump some player in the shit now.
There's a lot of guys that obviously have very good delivery. One of, I'd say, like Christian Eriksen from Tottenham. He's got quite good delivery. The hardest thing for me as a goalkeeper or defending team is someone that's able to whip the ball in, that doesn't get so much height on it, but is able to whip it in so flat when it arrives to the box.
Super quick.
That,
Speed's still there.
That flight doesn't allow me to come out as the goalkeeper to catch it, you know.
Yep.
And coming in flat like that, I got a split second to make a decision to think if I can get there or not. And if I can't, someone ducks in front of you and score a goal, then all of a sudden everyone's thinking, oh, what the is the goalkeeper doing here, you know, and you know all these types of things. So yeah, it's not easy, and he's one that's very tricky, you know, coming up against him. But there's a number of them in the league. So.
What else? Last one.
Angus Doe, don't shoot the messenger on this one. He says, do you ever regret being a keeper, and what other position would you like to play the most?
Nah, don't regret it one bit.
No, why
Love
would
it.
you?
Yeah.
Saving a goal must basically be as satisfying as scoring a goal, I would imagine.
No,
Have you ever? Do you remember the last goal you ever scored as a kid? Were you a kid?
Well, when I was in the Mariners, I took a penalty in a penalty shootout. Actually, I scored it. I did, but the following year I took a penalty in the game
How
during
did
a game.
that come about? Was it just a token? Were you guys?
I was confident that I could get up and take it, and I did, and put it away. But
What? So why'd they throw the ball to you? No further video, previous video.
It's super uncommon for a goalie to.
I know, but there's no like previous footage or anything for them to read, any tells or anything like that.
it's just a confident. At the end of the day, you just need personnel that's confident in that moment to do what's needed to help your team win. So
you put one away for the Mariners?
yeah, that was a penalty shootout though in a semi-final. But then, unfortunately, the following year we were going on a run where two of our players had missed penalties. And I had said to the coach, Graham Arnold, I was like, I'll take the next one. I don't mind, I'll step up. And it was the game against Western Sydney Wanderers in their first season, and we were playing them at home. And we were 2 points above them on the table at that point, and we got a penalty. I ran up and took it. It was pissing down rain. And I had made already the decision in my head early that I was going to just smash it up the middle, thinking the goalkeeper was going to dive. And so I did that. It went about knee height, and Arte Kovic was the keeper, and he half committed, and the ball hit his legs and all that, and the ball just stuck there, it stayed still. It didn't like slip through his legs, nothing like that, off the turf because it was wet, nothing. It hit there, so I missed. I ran up the other end, and then 10 minutes later they went up and scored. We lost the game 1-0, and they jumped above us, and then they ended up winning the minor premiership, and we didn't get above them.
So that was the pinnacle of your career, that game?
And that's one that hurts a bit, but we did win the grand final that year, so we had the last laugh at the end, but it would have been nice to get the minor premiership in the grand final, but yeah.
One last question from my son. He wanted to ask, it's not very common for a goalie to get a red card. Have you ever been red carded?
Touch wood, to this point, I haven't. No.
Nice.
So I'd never given away a penalty until this year, actually. I gave one away, I think, which was a little bit unfair, but, the referee made his decision and gave it away. So yeah.
Did you want to give the ref's Instagram handle a shout out? We can all message him.
Once I got a red card, somebody chipped the goalie, and I was the last defender. I ran in and I hit it away with my hand. I thought nobody saw. Turns out everybody saw.
I like that commitment, Luis Suarez did something similar one time, and then the goalkeeper saved the following penalty, and they ended up progressing. It was in a World Cup, wasn't
against
it?
Ghana,
wasn't it?
I remember.
So
stuff.
You had the right idea,
Yeah.
But why not? Why not? If you're willing to make the sacrifice.
We usually look at a few sort of current sporting events. There's not a lot going on as far as sport at the moment, but there is a few sort of news topics. Yep. What have we got, Hal?
The first three are about football. The first one talks about Premier League football are hosting a FIFA tournament, which actually started a few days ago on the 21st of April.
Yeah, so it's fans versus players, and they're actually showing the semi-final and the final on Sky Sport.
Oh, is that right?
In the UK.
You much of a gamer?
I was, but the last few years, no. I used to, being sore loser, I got too angry all the time, you know.
You're about to be a gamer. We got a bit of a. We shouldn't talk about this, but we've got a bit of a gaming challenge coming up.
Do we?
With Musashi athletes versus each other.
Oh,
but it's not in FIFA.
What's it in?
I think we're going to use the UFC game.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So good luck versus
So
Rob
does
Whittaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, does he have
I don't
an
think
advantage?
I don't think he uses himself in the game, but
okay.
brush up on your gaming skills.
Oh,
FIFA's my game, but no, I think
It's pretty cool. At least they're doing some virtual stuff, and gaming, esports has taken off since all this has happened.
the V8 supercars and all this type of stuff, you know. And,
virtual racing.
Yeah, virtual racing as well. Oh, yeah, for the V8 supercars.
Yeah.
It's, I like my motorsport as well, you know.
Oh,
so it's been cool seeing that. A bit funny, different element. But, but yeah.
What else you got, Hal?
Next up, forgive my pronunciation, but the Borussia
Mönchengladbach.
Yeah, that one. Fans filling the stadiums with cutouts themselves.
Yeah, so have you seen this? So all the fans are buying their own individualized cutouts, filling the stadium with it, because, you know, when the league restarts, and I think the German league might be one of the first to restart. So, they'll have somebody in the crowd.
Yeah, no, it's a nice initiative, you know, from the fans. You're trying to keep everyone happy and engaged and all that, and who knows, maybe you can add a little advantage to the home team.
They might have to play some canned crowd cheering or something.
Some applause.
That's it. What else, Hal?
More relevant to you, Maty. Brighton Stadium joins a list of other clubs that have engaged in coronavirus testing. So the Brighton Stadium is now a coronavirus testing centre.
What do they do to test? Is it temperature testing, or you don't know?
I don't know. It all happened once I was already across here.
Yep.
But I mean, I've seen out in Bondi, I think there's a tent there that's set up for testing. So
is it? It's pretty cool.
You can drive through and get a test done or something. But I think if you get tested, because the result takes 2 weeks or something to come through, I think you got to self-isolate at home if you have the test done.
Right.
But yeah, I knew our club has been contributing quite a bit to the National Health Service back there in England, and opening up the stadium for testing area and all that. So
it's going to be different when all the sports kick off, and they do want to slowly introduce fans back. It's like, what are you guys going to do to make sure players and everyone that's in the stadium is safe?
Yeah, uncharted territory.
It is, yeah.
I mean, who knows what's going to do with borders and all that.
I know.
If one country gets better, as soon as you open the borders again, people can travel. Who knows?
There's going to be a lot of people hesitant to travel, I'd say. Yeah. What else you got, Hal?
Two more entertaining headlines. First of all, LeBron has revealed the new Space Jam 2 logo. Are you guys fans of the original movie?
Definitely am, yeah.
Watched
it as a kid growing
Space
up.
Jam 2, I'm excited.
When was that made? 1980 something? Space Jam? Where was the original
that
one?
Was in the 90s.
It was in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was when Michael Jordan was
yeah.
the GOAT.
So what, they're making another one?
Yeah.
Is that,
With
Yeah,
LeBron.
they remade it.
Yeah, I think
they've already remade it.
Oh, they're
is it?
well into the process of making it.
Yeah, nice.
Is that when it's coming out?
Yeah, but he just revealed the logo on Instagram this week.
Ah.
'Cause, you know, the Time Squad logo is quite iconic of Space Jam, so it's pretty cool. Something fun. While the NBA is not on, might as well film a movie.
I knew Hal would ask that question, being cartoons. You're still watching cartoons at your age, aren't you?
All the time.
Yeah. What else? Last one?
Last one. Marijuana has become more accepted by professional leagues. The NBA is an example where immediately after the coronavirus lockdown, they said they were going to pause all their drug testing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's legal in the States, the usage of CBD for athletes now is huge. It's hugely prevalent. Obviously, where it's legal. There's talk of potentially making it a legal prescription medication here in Australia. You know a little bit more about this, do you?
Yeah, so low levels of CBD, which is one of the active components of marijuana, is not banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency anymore, but THC still is banned, which is, you know, the actual chemical that makes you high. So it's very hard to get, you know, pure CBD without any THC in it. So really what they're saying is it's banned outside of competition, but it's still banned within competition.
Right.
So, you know, so many states and places in the world now it's legal. So, you know, even like the likes of like Portugal, for example. Even like South Africa, Canada, all these countries, it's recreationally legal. So, interesting to see, interesting times, but...
Yeah, it'll be only a matter of time Excuse me, here in Australia.
Yeah, well, once
Well,
upon
usually-
a time, caffeine was banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. So, moving with the times, we'll keep an eye out, see what happens.
We actually had an Australian athlete that tested positive to caffeine at Commonwealth Games. He was a fencer.
What?
Yeah, he was jacked up on caffeine, obviously for mental alertness or whatever it was, and ended up getting done.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, obviously, there's a photo of Michael Phelps smoking and stuff before the last Olympics, and then, obviously the Jamaicans are the fastest in the Olympics. I'm just stereotyping over there. But
CBD is obviously the next big thing in recovery for athletes, but it's obviously.
Is that the properties of it? It's good for recovery.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you can either take it orally. They've got creams that you can rub on joints and things like that. I don't know. Is it legal in the UK yet? I don't
it's
know.
very much a grey area.
Nah.
So that's the thing. Moving from a banned substance to something that's good for you, it's very much...
It's not legal, but it's definitely present.
Yeah. It's
A few
present.
whiffs walking around the place and smelling it, Especially down on Brighton Beach. You walk down there in the summer, and there's a few down there that you just smell that have been
pretty socially
relaxing
accepted
down
these
there.
days.
So,
Yeah. No, I've watched Top Boy.
Before we finish on our Miyamoto Musashi quote, have you got a famous athlete quote for us that we have to guess who said this?
I do.
Is it a Maty Ryan quote?
It is not.
Do you have any quotes?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. You challenge me
No,
now.
no.
I have to come up with something. Yeah? I'll have a think. I'll let you know.
Go, Hal. What do you got?
It's a football player. The quote is, "It's not just about the money and the fame. It's about what you achieve on the pitch."
I think this would be someone. You're very knowledgeable across everything.
Any guesses?
You've got it one more time?
It's not just about the money and the fame. It's about what you achieve on the pitch.
Someone that got a bad deal, I think, in
Not
contract
just about the money
negotiations.
and the fame. I'm going to say Maradona, just because I watched the Maradona documentary the other day.
If it was maybe a cocaine quote.
Well,
I'm going to go an Aussie, and I'm going to go Cahill. Could be anyone.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
It's a big name. How's it a guess?
Big name? Recently or
Yeah,
of
you
the
got to give
past?
some hints for Matty.
Of all time? All time then. Of all time, I'll say Pele.
Ronaldinho.
Ronaldinho. Oh,
Okay.
of course, he just lost all his money. But Ronaldinho.
Was I closest?
Yeah.
I said a
Yeah, we'll
Brazilian,
give it to
know?
you. You win that one.
Probably one of my favorite players of all time, Ronaldinho. My favorite football quote of all time is from George Best.
What was it?
He's like, if I had to choose between dribbling past 5 players at Anfield and scoring or shagging Miss World, it would be a tough choice. Thankfully, I've done both.
Legend.
Have you heard that Peter Crouch one?
No.
Peter Crouch, he's had a question asked about him. He goes, if you weren't a footballer, what would you be? He says a virgin. So,
Be true for a lot of footballers, I
There's a
reckon.
lot of gold coming out of footballers.
Let's finish on a Musashi quote. What do you got? Are you familiar with Miyamoto Musashi?
is that the original?
He is a Japanese
Samurai. He's
Samurai?
the greatest samurai to
Yeah.
have ever lived.
in the
Yeah.
the 1600s.
Yeah, in the 1600s, and basically, it's the last time anything like this has ever been seen because guns were invented straight after, and he dominated Japan and beat every other samurai and retired and became a philosopher. So we end every single episode.
And then he started a sports nutrition brand.
Well, we try to carry the philosophy of Musashi
Yep.
today. So we end every episode with that quote, and we try to apply some wisdom into today's day and age. So the quote is, "In battle, if you make your opponent fit." Okay, let me start again. In battle, if you make your opponent flinch, you have already won.
Make your opponent flinch.
Yeah,
They say that a lot in fighting.
yeah. You see a lot of.
You see the square-offs before a fight, and there's a lot of guys that try and get them to flinch, and they know if they can get them to flinch, there's already that mental edge.
Yeah. Why I chose this quote is, when it comes to taking a penalty, if you make your opponent flinch, you're kind of already in their head. And
You learned that the hard way this morning.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was Hull. It was Hull. Yeah.
That was
Hull
Hull.
learned that this morning. That's right.
So you reckon you made Wayne Rooney flinch that day you saved his penalty? Yeah.
I don't know. I can't recall that day if I did anything. I don't think I did anything. I mean, I was probably thinking, oh, wow, that's Wayne Rooney, you know, he's coming up against. So, but nah, I don't know.
I suppose it talks to the mental aspect of the game that we spoke about earlier on in the podcast. It's just obtaining the little things that you can do to obtain that mental edge over your opponent.
Yeah.
Can sometimes win it for you.
Yeah.
You know, just even, planting the extra seed of doubt when you're one-on-one with a striker, making them flinch, making them think twice. I guess, that...
Yeah, no, I think...
You're not a big trash talker, but do some goalies sort of get right into it and give it to strikers?
There are some out there, yeah, for sure. There are some out there that try to use what they got. I guess I try to rely on my qualities as a keeper to, I guess, help me prevail in that aspect. I think if I tried something like that, I just think like
it's not authentic for you.
Yeah, karma would get the better of me, and much like the penalty. I take a penalty, I scored one, and then the next one I missed. So, but nah, I don't know. Just rely on my capabilities, I guess, as a keeper to hopefully prevail. So
I'm sure you've made many a striker flinch in your time. Don't worry.
And that's why you are so well respected in the game. And I thank you so much for coming here to doing this today. Really appreciate it. And if the season kicks off again, big if, we don't know. Best of luck. Hope you kill it, and hope you enjoy your time at Brighton and stay safe.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks
really enjoyed it myself.
Appreciate it.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, everyone. Next episode, we'll see you soon. Bye.